Today we're going to continue the happy flower block, so grab your fabric and come sew with me.
Good morning, gifted crafters. It's crafting time.
Me and my friends are having a great time. It's not face to face, it's all online. We're all in our homes, miles away. Love them like my family, what can I say? My crafting show is on, it's my time for me. Laughter, tips and tricks, this is what I need. We're here to have fun, we're all in the zone. When crafted with friends, you'll never...
Live from the Sunshine State in Miami, Florida, here is the Gifted Crafters Morning Show with Nancy.
Good time. Ooh, time to get our craft on. Ooh, time to have fun. Ooh, time to feel good.
Good morning, gifted crafters, and welcome back to the Gifted Crafters Morning Show. Good morning out there. This is the channel where we do all kinds of crafting things, from knitting, crocheting. We do decoupage, quilting, sewing, and so much more. And I hope this is a great way for you to jumpstart your day, get a little smile, maybe a little giggle, laugh or two. It's always great to have every morning. And we just really have a great time here. So if you're joining in for the first time, my name is Nancy with GiftsHQ, and we just love to have you here. So thank you for being here. All right, let's see who we have with us this morning. We've got Bettina. Good morning to you. We've got Nancy. Good morning to you. Love your name. We've got Barb from Central Illinois. We've got Faker McFake. We've got, oh, our friends from Canada are here. Yay! Good morning, everyone. We've got Evelyn here. Good morning. We've got Lori. Good morning. Barbara from Ohio. We've got Deborah from New Mexico. Good morning, and good morning to JBL. Let's see, we've got Crafting on a Dime with Shay Shay. Good morning to you. We've got Joy. We've got Melissa from East Texas. We've got Jackie Hallman. Good morning. We've got Cindy Ball, Deborah Bile, Marge. Good morning. We've got Lisa from Richmond, Illinois. We've got Becky from North Central Texas. And Marge joins us from Wisconsin. And gosh, you can see that we just got people from all over the place. Good morning to Jenny. And let's see, another Marge. Good morning, Tiffany, Georgette, Cheryl. Good morning to everyone. I hope, if I missed you guys, sorry. I hope you guys really have a good time today. Thank you again for tuning in and just kind of being with me on my little sewing journey. It's something that we have a great time doing, and we just do lots of things today. Today we're going to be celebrating just a little bit, and I hope you can join me with the little celebration. So first off, before we do that, maybe we should have our little toast, or do we want to do our little announcement? We could do the announcement. Okay, so our announcement is that we reached 13,000 subscribers. Yay! Yes, 13,000 subscribers, guys. That's amazing, and we were really surprised. I had that goal to reach it by the end of 2025, and here we are, not even a week into the new year, and we reached it. So I was really happy about that. So really great. We got to reset our goals now for the end of this year, for 2026. But I want to thank you guys for all of your support. You know, it's been just because of you guys that we've been kind of moving right along and just growing and growing and growing. And thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, all the congratulations are coming in. Yeah, we're so excited. We're like, wow, 13,000. I can't believe it. And we've been on what, 3, 4, is it 4 years? I think it's 4 years now. So yeah, going strong. Yay. Awesome. More to come in the future, right? Yay. All right, so before we get too much into the celebratory mood, we got to grab our drink. So let's go ahead. I'm going to scoot this over a bit so I can grab my mug here, because my ice is melting, guys, and we need to do our little toast. So go ahead and grab yourself a cup of whatever it is you have in the morning. You guys know the drill. Go ahead and grab it. There's no judgment here. Grab a cup of whatever it is you have and raise it nice and high. And if you don't have something, no worries. I will pour you a cup. All right. So let's pour them a cup here. There we go. Let's go ahead and raise them nice and high. And we're going to toast to having 13,000 subscribers and having a great day. And I hope you guys get some sewing in today. So cheers, everyone. Raise them nice and high and grab a little swivel. Oh, that feels fantastic. I'm going to grab one more. Feels great. Oh. Love that in the morning. Wakes you up, gets you ready to go, right? Okay, we are good to go now. Let's go grab some snacks, shall we? I think we need to do a little bit of a stretch here because it was a long day yesterday. A lot of work, a lot of sitting down. Didn't really get up from my chair until like late in the evening, and that was to go make dinner. So yeah. It was a lot going on yesterday, got a lot done, very productive at work, and then came into the sewing room, and after having dinner, got a little bit productive in here. So I'll show you a little bit of my progress that I made last night. So let's go ahead and grab some snacks, right? Okay, I think we're gonna roll out our food cart because we gotta do a little walk, give a little stretch. Go ahead, stretch your arms, stretch your legs, get yourself to that little food cart because we've got all kinds of things on that food cart. And of course, for those who are snowed in, we've got the drone for you, don't worry. You're all good. But we've got everything in the cart, from cookies, donuts, croissants, all kinds of goodies. And we've got healthy stuff in there too. Don't forget the carrots and the kales, because lots of people are very conscious right now and trying to remain really good for the beginning of the year. So we've got the healthy stuff for you too. All right, so go ahead and grab your coffees. Drones are on their way to go deliver them to you. And I think we are good now that you got your snacks and your drinks. I hope you're in your nice little cozy spot or a little safe place to watch. Good morning. Oh, Robin's quilt basket is back and she's made it. And hopefully she is feeling much better. I hope so. All righty. Yes. Thank you, Lori. Yes, congratulations. Yes, thanks. Yeah, last of the Christmas cookies for you, Cindy. Yeah, we've cut that off. You know, once the last dessert is gone from Christmas and New Year's, that's it. It's going to be strict over here in this household. Okay, so If you have not tuned in yesterday, we started on our Quilters Cottage quilt. This is a quilt by Lori Holt. And we have broken down this quilt into a couple of different pieces. So if you haven't purchased the book, we mentioned this in December that we would be working on this quilt. Again, it's a book called Quilters Cottage, and it's a beautiful quilt. Very, very nice with some really soft colors on here. You've got a picket fence, some flowers, a house, very cozy cottage looking thing. I thought that would be a really nice place to start off. Book is available. We've got the link in the video description below if you want to go ahead and quilt this with us. So we started it off, kicked it off yesterday, and we started working on Happy Flowers. So that is the first part of the book, where we have 3 different flowers. Now, as I explained yesterday, I will not be using Lori Holt fabrics. I don't have enough of that in my stash to do the entire quilt, so I am using my own stash. So I went through my fabrics and picked up as close as I can and changed up a couple of things, picked up all of my different colors, and this is the result. We've got all different kinds of colors here. This is going to be my background fabric, and then we've got all kinds of colors for the flowers and all the other different pieces. So yesterday we did piece together our little blocks here, and we had to make 24 of these. A lot of stitch and flips going on last night, and so we ended up doing these blocks, and I've done them for all 3 different fabrics, different colors for the flowers. And so I went ahead and I started on the next step, which is basically to add these 2 ends and do this little border. And I'm not done with them because you do have to add this border onto all of them. So I did manage to finish 1 stack so that I could show you what it's going to look like when you start to assemble it on the back end, because I know I won't have enough time to do all of these in the hour. So I went ahead and finished 1 color, and then we're going to do the other 2 colors today on the show, and then I'm going to show you what it's like to assemble them for the upcoming part. So hopefully you guys have picked out your fabric, and I'm hoping that you are ready to go and made your cuts. Hopefully you've gotten your book. If you haven't gotten your book, hopefully you'll get it soon so you can catch up with us. But it's going to be a lot of fun. And we are going through the book, but I am not going step by step. I decided, since I am picking my own fabrics, I decided to skip on to page 16, which is where the Happy Flowers block begins. And that's what we decided to go ahead and start off with, because it gives me the opportunity to swap fabrics around if I'm not too happy with the way it's looking. And I thought that was a block within the quilt that I can do that before I get into any more complicated type blocks. So yeah, lots of fun. We did that, and then last night I was able to add the little extra pieces on those sides. So let's kind of jump right into it. So today, like I said, we're going to be adding those borders. So you're going to need your fabrics from stash F and E, which is labeled on the book. And remember, you'll have to get the book to get all of the cutting instructions on here. They do a really good job on that, and I really love the illustrations that they have in the book as well. Very, very nicely laid out. Now, one thing they don't tell you as you're reading the instructions, there's sometimes some things that they don't point out on the instructions that may, if you're a seasoned quilter, you may pick up on it, or maybe you were rushing and you didn't notice. But sometimes there's these really small little things that they won't tell you in the text, but they'll show you and illustrate it. And if you don't pay attention to the pictures, you can kind of miss it. So let's take a look at what I mean on that. So I'm going to grab one here. And me grab a couple of them actually. So we talked about yesterday that after you do your stitch and flip that you needed to go ahead and kind of remeasure your finished block right here and make sure that it was in the 3-inch size, and then trim it. And really, you know, accuracy is the key, making sure that this is 3 inches. Okay, so I did that for every single one of these. I measured them again, just making sure that they were at 3 inches. I did have one block that was a teeny bit off, but I think I'm gonna be able to hide that in the seam allowance. So I think that one will be okay. I wish I labeled it because then I kind of lost it in the stack. I believe it was one of these here, but I'm sure I'll find it when we get to it. But once I have this here and I have that at that 3-inch mark, the next step is to then add these two pieces right here, pieces E and pieces F. Now, piece F measures at about, they're both at 1 inch wide, but this one's only 3 inches. And this one is, I believe it's 3.5 inches long. So you want to make sure you pay attention to when you're putting this together. You want to have the one that's labeled as F over to the side. Let me do this one because it adds a little color so you can see it better. So you want to add this one here on this side, and then E you want to add to the top. But what the pattern doesn't tell you is that positioning is so important. Notice in the book, they do have the fabric kind of leaning towards, well, it's leaning towards my right here. So let me turn this around so you can see it and we can both look at it the same way, okay? So see how the book has the fabric leaning this point over to this side right here. Make sure that when you're putting this together that your fabric is positioned the same way. And what I mean is that you don't want to have your fabric going this way, okay? Because you could put your sides on the incorrectly. So if I were to just do this, yep, this would be on the top. This would be incorrect here. This blue one would be incorrect. You want to make sure that the pieces that you're adding, that point with your fabric needs to be right on that point here. Okay, you don't want it facing an incorrect way, because then this would be pieced incorrectly and you would have to undo it and redo it again. So if they don't tell you that like in the instructions, but you have that right here. What was that?
We had a little issue, but we're okay.
We had a little issue. Okay, we're good. Okay, we're still good. As long as you guys can see me and hear me, we're good. So just make a note of that as you are going through the book and going through the instructions. Take a look at those illustrations, because sometimes the illustration is telling you to do something, but you may not be paying attention. And you could possibly do this. You don't want that to happen. You want to make sure that you orient it the right way and have the fabrics going the correct way when you're adding these pieces, okay? And then of course you want to make sure these are right sized together. You're going to lay them on top of each other and you're going to go ahead and sew that. Then open this here. We're going to press that open, and then we're going to add the top layer here. And then once you've done that, you're going to trim it yet again. So you're going to check, and at this point now you should be measuring at about 3.5 inches. And if you're not, you can go ahead and trim from there. So this is where, if you didn't get that cut just perfect, like I mentioned, I had one that was not a great cut. It was off just slightly. this is where, because this background fabric is all kind of blended in, you may be able to play around with that seam allowance in the back and fix it so that it will still be at that 3.5 inch once you're all done. So make sure, one, you're checking your illustrations in your book. Make sure you're oriented the correct way before you take it to your sewing machine. And then two, make sure you're checking your measurements. And if your measurement is slightly off, see if you can hide that in your seam allowance and get that finished block at 3.5 inch size. If not, then you can go out and just cut some more fabric and try that piece again. But try to see if that works for you, and hopefully that will help out in case it's not exactly the way you wanted it to come out, right? You have some opportunity here to kind of play around with it and fix it and get it to that finished size that you need it to be. Okay? Awesome. All right. Any questions? If you guys have, please put it in the chat. Oh, you love those two blue fabrics? Yeah, these are really nice. I really love these fabrics here. And I think this pink just gonna add that little splash of color. I needed something a little bright and just kind of interrupt these two right here. So I thought this would play really well. Well, we'll see how it comes together. Okay. So this is very simple. We'll do a couple here, and then I will talk about the layout on this piece here, and that's laying it out here as you're seeing in the book on this diagram right here. So let me just put this back here where it belongs. Oh, we'll just leave it like this. Okay. Alrighty. So one thing that I found to be very beneficial is having my setup correct, right? So this is, I have the book facing towards you, so it's going to be on the opposite side. So this is where I need my pieces to be. So if I face it towards me, this is what my layout would look like. Now, I would have to turn it around for you guys, okay? So I'm going to make sure that this layout stays like this as I am working, okay? I want to make sure that I don't flip the orientation by mistake, which can easily happen if you are distracted, okay? So go ahead and set your pile down. Make sure that your fabrics are all oriented the correct way. Have everything set up here in your piles, and then you just have to pick them up and start sewing. So ask me how I know that, because I get interrupted all the time. And yes, a lot of the times it's because of Mr. H. And when I get interrupted and I come back, I just start sewing, and then I realize I either flipped it to the wrong side, or I'm sewing the wrong side, or, you know, something else was not what I wanted to sew. And of course, you know, we'll blame him. All right, so let's get going here. I'm going to set this over to the side. I think it's going to be a pick on Mr. H day. What do you think? Let's go ahead and wake up Miss Molly here. Righty, she's got some little late night sewing with me, so let's go ahead. I'm going to turn this back around and orient it the right way for me so that I don't mess it up. And just grab, I like to have the book kind of in front of me just to remind me of which piece I am putting together. So again, now we're going to take fabric F. Here's the little labels. So I'm going to take fabric F, which is the shorter one, and I'm going to go ahead and come over to the sew cam, and I'm going to just kind of lay this on top of each other here. Okay. And just put it right on top, and then I'm going to go ahead and I am going to just sew that at 1/4 inch. Just put it right underneath here. Here we go, and grab the sewing foot and make sure that I am positioned correctly so machine is directly in front of me and hand placement is ready to go. So there we are. Now we can just go ahead and sew. And there is my nice 1/4 inch seam ready to go. Now I like to kind of just finger press that open. And then I'm going to grab fabric E, which is the longer side. And I am going to line up fabric E on the corner where I have my little point here. And that's where I want to line this up, because I want to make sure that this side is perfectly aligned. I know I'll have to do some trimming because this fabric is probably not going to reach the entire way. So let's see here. I might have to do some trimming, but here's my fabric laid out. I mean, it's not too much. It's a tiny, tiny slither of fabric, if you guys can even see that. I don't know if you can even see that. It's so tiny. It's really tiny, but it's a little piece of fabric that I'll trim off in the end. And that's exactly what I want to see. Now, if you're not that great at cutting or anything like that, I definitely am not, right? We all have our good points, our bad points. So sometimes you may have to trim more than others, and that's totally okay because it's all in that seam allowance, so no one's going to see it. I just want to make sure that this one is nice and squared with the fabric, and this one comes out really nice. So I'm going to start on this side here. Again, just line it up under my foot, and then I'm going to go ahead and sew. Now we'll talk about the seam allowance here in just a second. Let me move it up a little bit. So in the back here, I've got the seam allowance going to the outside. If you look at the book, the illustration does tell you, now see if I can squeeze this into this camera here. There we go. So it is telling you that the seam allowance needs to come on the outside, and then the seam allowance for fabric E needs to be going to the top there. So that's what those little arrows represent on the illustration. So pay attention to that because it's really important that your seam allowances are falling on the right end, because that's going to help you later when you're piecing this with another block and putting it together. So let's go ahead and finish that up. And then again, I'm going to finger press this open and flatten that out. And at this point, I'm now going to go ahead and I'm going to take this and I'm going to put this on my iron to lay it nice and flat. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to trim it. Now, let me see, because something does not looking right. And sure enough, I did the opposite. This top part, because I had it flipped over, this should be up here. And I can't flip it because then it's going to the wrong end. So once again, seam ripper time. We just have to do it at least once, right? Let me grab my seam ripper. Guys, I'm chipped. Yeah, you know, I can't blame this one on Mr. H. This was all me. I have to say this was all me. So yeah, we're gonna undo this, guys. Yeah, I knew something just wasn't looking right and I couldn't put my finger on it, but I'm gonna go ahead and open up. How I do this here is I just pull a couple of stitches until I'm comfortable. Once I have it open here, then I will just seam rip right through that. Let's see, there we go. And now I can just put that little red ball. You want to, that's what's protecting your fabric from not getting cut. So then once you have that, you can just push it through and it will release more of those stitches. Okay. So go ahead and do that. Sorry guys, I need to do it up here where I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so yeah, seam ripper song. Did we have that one going?
Yep, it's fine.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's going to be one of those mornings because, you know, when you stay up kind of late, you know, things are going to happen and you're not going to be too pleased, but that's okay. All right, I'm being extra careful because I don't want to pull my other stitch there. Okay, looks good. One more thread here that just doesn't want to let go. There we go. Okay, so yeah, don't do what I just did. Let's try this again, and this time, like I said, you can get easily distracted and you need to pay attention to the illustrations on the book. So look at the orientation. Here we are. Now, this is what I should have done. Instead of putting it on the bottom, I was supposed to put it up here on the top. That way, when we open it, this corner of the fabric is right on that corner right here, okay? So no worries, we'll just put it on top and do this again. So let me just line this up here. Here we go. Trying to do this with my fingers. There we are. Let me get on a flat surface. Okay. Ouch. Alrighty. I think we're good here. So let's get under this needle here. Make sure this is nice and aligned, and we're going to try this one more time. Make sure you are right sized together. There we go. 1/4 inch seam again. Finger press that open again, and now we've got our fabric here for our flower facing this little corner. So very, very nice. There's that tiny piece that I think we need to trim off. You guys can see that little, kind of like a thread that we need to trim that right there. And that's totally fine. Okay, so let's kind of scoot over. Let me grab my little iron here. And I kind of had this set up really nicely last night because I think it worked out for me just kind of having the piecing right here, my iron very close to me over here. So I was able to just kind of go ahead. Well, first I got to turn it on, but I got to go ahead and I got it just kind of, there we go. We just got to have this oriented in a way that it makes it easier to flow. So a lot of chain piecing was happening last night when I was putting these blocks together. And I think that having the right setup and having things in the right position really helps you move along a lot faster. So this is kind of what worked for me last night. It was having my sewing machine here directly in front of me, my ironing board just off to the side. You don't need a ton of a big ironing board, a ton of space. This little tiny board worked for me. And then having this, all my pieces oriented together here, okay? And having that this way kind of helps out for me. I know it's kind of opposite for you guys. So I may have to try to turn the camera on so it's opposite all the time so that you guys can see it the way I see it. And then we don't get all confused on that. So let's go ahead and I'm going to press this open. And I want you to grab a ruler, but I want you to make sure that you're picking a ruler that's going to work for you. And I found that I had 2 rulers. I had my 6.5 inch squared ruler that was working for a while, but then I found that this ruler worked a lot better because it was smaller, and it's just a little 4-inch square ruler because that works for this size block. You don't need a big ruler, and I think working with the smaller ones just makes it a little bit better. Okay, so this is nice and pressed and ready to go. And so now I just kind of put it underneath my ruler and I look to see if there was any trimming that needed to get done. So I'll put this right underneath here. And I'll start with this little corner where my fabric is kind of sewn, right? So this little corner right here where all of these 3 fabrics are joined together, that's what I want to start off with. And I want to check, as I'm checking this underneath, I'm checking it to be at 3.5 inches, okay? So for 3.5 inches, if I go to the mark, there's a little bit of trimming that does happen, both on the top and on the side. So I'll pick kind of right in the middle area, and you want to check your 3.5 inch mark. You also want to check your 45-degree angle to make sure that your point here is on that 45-degree angle, okay? You want to check from corner to corner or from corner to point, making sure that that's on that angle right there, because that's going to help you align it a lot better. And then you'll check your sides, and you'll check within the ruler that you are on that 3.5 inch mark, and then you'll go ahead and trim that piece off. So you can do that. I found that holding off and trimming at the very end was a lot easier for me, but I wanted to kind of just point that out for you. And then, so what I did to kind of chain piece this together was just basically, like I said, orient everything here. Then I can just kind of grab my fabric, and I can decide to do all of fabric F on the sides for each and every one of these, and then come back and do fabric E on all of them. And so I'll go ahead and lay this out here on my sewing machine. And then I'm going to grab fabric F, and I'm going to go ahead and lay it down. Make sure it's oriented the same way this time. We're not distracted by Mr. H or anyone here. And then once I have this all laid out, I don't want to sew it this way, although you can, but I prefer to sew it this way. So I am going to flip it over, right? And this is where it can get a little confusing, because then you're not sure, am I oriented the right way? So just make sure, you know, you do this as you're comfortable. You know, you want to sew it with the fabric on the outer side, not so much in the throat space. And then we're just going to line that up and sew that right in place. Make sure you hold on to the end of the fabric and give it the support so that you have your stitches going all the way through at the correct seam allowance. Otherwise, you can shift, and this side will be a little bit less than 1/4 inch than when you first started. So make sure your hand position is correct. Now I cut that fabric, but if I wanted to chain piece, I can just kind of continue bringing another block. So I'll do that and show you that difference. So I have this one, I'm going to finger press this one, and I'm going to put this over to the side. And now we're just going to chain piece the rest of them together. So we're going to have this piece here. I'm going to orient it the correct way, right sides together, line this up. I'm going to flip it. Oops, sorry, I bumped the camera there. And then line it up under my foot. And then as I go here, I'm going to continue, let it do a couple more stitches, and I'm not going to cut my threads. I'm just going to grab my next one, and I'm going to go ahead and position the next one. And just use your fingers to scratch the fabric over to where you need it to be. And then we can kind of flip this over. Now, if you wanted to use pins to hold this together, you can, but I think it's fine if you just chain piece it like this. So you see now I'm just kind of lining it up on my foot, and I'm gonna let the feet dogs pull the fabric in for me. So I'm just kind of gently holding it to make sure that as it pulls it in nice and straight. So I'll take a couple of stitches. You see how it kind of pulled it in for me? And then I'm just going to keep maintaining and providing the support so that the stitch goes all the way through. So let's do that. And there it is. And so You can continue to go all the way, or I could have stopped right there. And I'm just going to grab the next one, and this is how I'm going to keep moving to do all 8 of the fabrics that I have for this particular color fabric. So we've got 3 different, actually it's 6 different flowers, and you'll do this 8 times for each fabric. So then go ahead, orient that together. We're gonna, you don't even have to raise your presser foot, you just slide it underneath. You can, if you want to, just kind of adjust a little bit there. But mine's is, it's so strong that the feet dogs just grab it. But you can adjust it right underneath the foot. And then just give it the support. And see, I have not completely taken my fabric all the way across. I can leave it there if I'd like, but I like to have a little bit of thread in between, so I'm going to give it a couple more. I like to have that thread in between, and I'll show you what I mean once we're done here. We'll do a couple more, and then I will show you what that looks like. So orient this the right way, flip this over, make sure I am covering, so I mean use my fingernails to kind of scratch it into place. And then I'm just gonna adjust it right underneath there. And let it keep going. Matter of fact, we're gonna cut it right here. So let's cut the thread so I can show you what I mean. So when you're chain piecing, you end up with all of your threads connected, but you have the space in between. And the amount of space that you have in between is up to you. You can let it go a little bit further, or you can go closer. So you can see in this last one, I had it pretty close. I didn't let it go too far. And so I have just a small amount of space, which is totally fine. Okay. This allows you to work a little bit faster, and it lets you kind of focus on just this one step. So there's less of a chance that you would make an error because you're repeating this over and over and over again. And so you may have in your sewing room, and let me just grab one. I have a couple of them. They've got these little thread cutters here. And the thread cutters, you can use your old rotary blades. This is a great way to kind of reuse those blades that maybe are not too great for your rotary cutter anymore. Maybe they're skipping and they're not cutting as good. You can take these blades, instead of throwing them out, just throw them into your thread cutters, because this works awesome for that. And this just kind of it sits on the stand, and then you just kind of take your little chain here, looks like a little banner, I guess, right? And then you're just gonna cut the threads in between. And so let me just scoot this over a tiny bit, and I'll put this down here, and then you're just gonna sit here and you're gonna run it against the blade and just cut that right off, okay? And so you'll just continue to do that and cut them all off. And there you go, you've got your little pile. So I'll have that handy off to the side. And so now I can focus on just finger pressing and maybe just pressing this now. I can finger press them down and move to the next step, but I like to kind of iron them. So I'm gonna go ahead, bring this to the iron, and I'm gonna go ahead and iron just this one side so I have it nice and flat. Okay, and then I'm going to do that for all the pieces. So this it helps you out when you're interrupted a lot. So you have less of a mistake because you're just repeating the same step over and over again. And it helps you to get a lot of it done all at the same time. So this is a project, especially since we're doing the flower project, this is a nice one that you can do chain piecing with. Some people really enjoy chain piecing because it allows you to give you that accuracy. Some people don't prefer that because they get bored with it because you're repeating the same motion over and over. But yeah, Let's see. Cindy says, does that flower cutter have a magnetic bottom? No, this one does not. This one does not. I thought I had another one that did. What this one has is when you open it up, has the ability to store tools. And comes with this little tiny screwdriver. And so you can kind of store your little tools in there. And then it's got a little hole. The little magnets are right here, but that's just to keep this closed. And that's what holds this together. But no magnets on the bottom, but you can easily get a magnet and get that on here. And then just go ahead and put that right in here and it stands right up. Where did I get the cutter? This was Missouri Star. It's called the Blade Saver on here. So that was from the Missouri Star Quilt Company. I believe they have them on their site. But I have a few. There's a few different cutters. They've come in all different colors. And here's one back here because I have tons of them. This is another one, looks like a little flower as well. And this one allows you to kind of just put it away when you're not using it. You can kind of pull it out, flip it over, and then put it in place. So there's all kinds of different ones that are out there. Yeah, they're all adorable. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, they're adorable. They're cool. And you know, they're very, very handy to have around. You know, these cutters are just really nice when you're chain piecing, and it really helps you to get it done quickly. And so here you have a little stash, and it helps you feel a little bit more productive because you feel like, oh wow, I did all of these. You just did the one step, but they're all done, which is nice. And then you can kind of move to the next step, and then you focus on that next step and just continue along the way. Some people really enjoy chain piecing because it helps them reach the accuracy. I really like it because, you know, the interruptions, less of a chance of making a mistake, things like that. Otherwise, you can just kind of go through each one and then do all of the steps and then work on the next one. You know, so some people prefer it that way. Sometimes I mix it up different ways, but you know, it's really just a preference on what you like to do. But yeah, you can get these. They have them at the Missouri Star. You could probably get them on Amazon. Check them out. They've got all kinds of colors and cutesy ones that you can get. So very, very cute, and they're very, very handy. Some of them I like because they collapse. Like this one here, I can just throw this in a drawer, won't take up much space at all. And then when I need it, everything is in one place, and then I just kind of put it together and I'm ready to go. But they have different size ones also, so some may take bigger blades than others, but for your blades, this is a great way, instead of throwing out the blade, you know, this is a great way to kind of repurpose it and use them. Yeah, you've seen them a lot in the quilt shops. Yeah, Connie, they've got them in quilt shops. I believe Amazon has them. I mean, you should be able to find these anywhere. And they're really not that expensive at all. And it's just a great way to kind of, you know, reuse some of those blades, and a great way for you to sit down and do some chain piecing. So that works out really well. Okay, so we chain piece this side together. And so now I can continue, and we've got two more here. Matter of fact, we've got some time. Let me just do these two more, and then we'll start adding that top fabric here. And let's just do that quickly here. Okay, so let me orient these two. I want to do this one, line it up here again. And then I want to talk about how we are assembling this together for our next step. So I want to see if I can squeeze that into this hour. That way you've got some homework to do, guys. You've got some homework to do because we definitely want to get this quilt going. This is not going to be one of those quilts that are just kind of sit to the side somewhere, okay? All right, here we are. Make sure I have that oriented right, and then I'm going to flip it, Put it underneath the needle and give it the support that it's going to need. Okay, so we've got those nice and done. Once again, grab my little flower here and cut that little thread. Now I can just bring this over, make sure my seam allowance is going the right way as I am pressing that down. Okay, and then I like to just kind of let it sit there for a minute while I finger press the next one, and then just kind of move it down. See how you get that assembly motion going? And so you just kind of move it to the next one and then just kind of come back and make sure you're pressing on that seam. Okay, so these are ready to go. And so we have our pile once again. Now we are ready to attach fabric E. And so we'll have these ready to go here. And we'll start to do assembly motion to put these together. And so again, right sides together, make sure I'm putting it on the right side this time. And I'll go ahead and bring this over to the machine. Here we go. And there we are, just scratch, scratch, scratch. And you'll see, as much as we try, you know, our cutting sometimes is just not perfect. And I'll show you that. See how, look at that. I've got just that slither right there. So I'm pretty sure when I go to look at the measurement on this, there's going to be some trimming that's going to happen there. Okay, got a little bit here, probably going to need to trim that off. So there's always opportunity to fix little tiny mistakes as you go along. So don't be afraid to make them. Okay, all right, so I will finish these up tonight and have all of these using my chain piecing method. I'm going to go ahead and finish these all tonight, but let's take a look at the orientation that you're going to need. So I'm going to stick these over to the side because I want to make sure we look at that before we leave today, because that way you guys can work on this tonight and then tomorrow we can move to the next step. Okay, all right. These are ready to go. So I'm going to take the pile that I finished last night and I'm going to try this, do this facing you. So I'm going to flip my book the other way to make sure I have this going the right way. So you're going to have all your 3.5 inch squared pieces. Remember to make sure that you check each one of them and make sure that, let me move this over just a tad. Make sure that you have this all measured out and you trim these off and they're at the 3.5 inch mark. Then go ahead and lay these out. So let's see, we're going to have one on each corner here. Let's kind of lay it this way and scoot some of these things over. And let's see. We'll have another one this way here, and you're starting to see how this will come together. Okay, so that's going to be the base of one of the flowers, and of course you're going to have 3 of them. So you've got some more, actually 2 of each flower, I think it is. Let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, you're going to have 2 flowers of each fabric. Okay, and you'll lay it out this way. So this will be the orientation for the next step. And then we're going to be adding our middle portion, which is going to be from fabric I. We're going to bring that in. That's going to be our center piece. So that'll go right here in the middle. And then you're going to need fabric H. Fabric H, where are you? Here it is. And you're going to use fabric H to kind of bring the whole thing together. So if you want, you can pull these off. Let's do this center piece first. You're going to go ahead and line these up here. And you'll be doing a 1/4 inch seam to get that center piece. Okay, so it'll look like a cross with that little yellow fabric right in the middle. So that's going to be our little center point. And then this is where you're then going to add these pieces right here. And you see how your little flower all comes together here. Okay. And let's see, in terms of the end here, this, it's a 1/4 inch seam, so this will be all lined up. So you're going to want to make sure that this is seamless all the way across. So make sure that you're paying attention to your seam allowance when you're tying it to this center square, because you don't want to short yourself. If you give too much, if it's not a 1/4 inch, let's say you do a 1/2 inch by mistake, this is going to be inside too much. And you're going to have a gap right here. So make sure you're at the 1/4 inch and you're lining up with these edges here. So we'll make sure to do that tomorrow. But this is what the assembly is going to basically look like. And you're going to make sure that this is kind of all put together. And this is going to make the one block. And then we're going to be working on the little stem with the leaves that'll bring this block all together. Okay, so this is what it'll look like, hopefully, when we're all done putting our pieces tomorrow. But I think the layout is looking pretty good, and I'm really liking the colors. So I think it's turning out really nice. And I think the other colors that I have will work with this, and it's going to look nice when the 3 of them are kind of put side by side together. So another tip on if you are picking your own fabrics, you know, look at the layout. At this point, it's not too bad. You have some investment, but you don't have a ton of investment in your fabric stash that you could maybe, if you're not liking the way the flower looks, you can still, you have an opportunity to swap it at this point. So even if I didn't like the center piece, I can go ahead and swap this out. Maybe I want a solid yellow instead of this squares, or maybe I want something with little polka dots or something else. If I'm not liking this piece, I can change it out at this point. So this is where you can stop and pause and kind of relook at the fabric choices and see what you would change or not change, right? This is the opportunity that you have before you get way too invested into the quilt to make those kinds of changes. So you can do some checkered stuff, you can do polka dots, solids, and you can change up the colors. So play around with it and see what you would do. Okay, so don't know what you guys have in your stash, whatever it is you like to use, just play around with the colors. Don't be afraid to make changes, because sometimes simple little changes can completely change the look. Okay, we saw that when we were doing some embroidery projects. You saw that I've made changes on fabrics because they just didn't look good at the time that I was starting to put it together. And I just made that one small little change and it completely changed the quilt altogether. So I think that it was really, really a great idea to change that around. So don't be afraid to do that. Okay. All right, guys, we are towards the end of our hour. Yeah, it does look amazing. I think it's really pretty. I think they're all going to come out nice. I'm really excited to see this little polka dot one on how that one turns out, but we'll take a look at that tomorrow once I have all the pieces ready to go. So homework for tonight, go ahead and make your 3.5 inch block. Have those ready to go. Do your little layouts. See if you're going to make any fabric changes. And then tomorrow we will be assembling these together to get our little flowers. And then we'll talk about next steps, moving towards the leaves and the stems to kind of finish up this flower block. And then we can move on to other parts of the quilt. All right, guys, I hope you are really happy with today's show, and I hope you guys are doing this. If you are following along with me, go ahead and post in our Facebook group. You can just show your progress, show us your fabrics you're using. I just want to see that you guys are having fun with this. So don't be afraid to try new things. And for those of you who are still waiting on your books, I hope you guys get them pretty soon so you can catch up with us. Awesome. All right, so I'm going to be playing our 13K animation again at the end, and I just want to thank you guys so much for everything that you guys do We are really appreciative of you guys, and we love all the support that you give us. And thank you guys all so much. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I hope to be crafting with you soon. Bye, everyone.
So long for now, so long. Glad you stayed a while. Hope you liked my crafting style. Hope I left you with a smile. By now, keep your mind and space clutter-free. Hope your day is bright as can be. So long, my friends, till we craft once again. Bye now, stay crafting. See you tomorrow. So long, my friends, till we craft once again.